Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Green Majority, Mark Tery.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sorry, if you want to get a little closer to the mic when you speak.
Okay, how's that?
That's perfect. Thank you so much. So we have you on today because we're talking about the Rio Plus 20 principally, but mainly your video project, which is connecting youth through the United Nations Environment Program project. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about the video project?
Yes, it's very exciting. It's called the Youth Climate Report. It was the creation of an entertainment lawyer and producer named John Kelly, and it basically had two objectives in mind. One was to provide a voice for young people at international conferences, and the second is to bring the latest climate research from scientists around the world to international policymakers.
Okay, and so what sort of events? I understand you've been doing this for some time. There's COP17 is up there. You've now moved on to Rio Plus 20. What are some of the other instances that you've used as a catalyst for doing some of these projects? What other projects have you done?
Well, actually, going back to, I guess, 2008 now, we did a feature film called The Antarctica Challenge, A Global Warning. And that was made during International Polar Year, with the idea of reporting on the latest climate research being done by the world scientific community in Antarctica particularly. And when we made that film, apparently there was no other research available during that time for delegates attending the big climate summit in Copenhagen, COP15. So I got a phone call from the United Nations saying, hey, can we show your film? And I said, absolutely, that'd be great. So at the time, we were the only film officially invited by the United Nations to screen to delegates and world leaders attending that conference. And because of the success of that, we were invited to do another film, this time showing what's happening in the other polar region, the Arctic. And so we did, and that film was called The Polar Explorer, which just came out a few weeks ago, by the way, on PBS DVD. And
is there a way people can check that information about that film as well?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon.com and or our website, polarexplorerfilm.com.
Okay.
But anyways, we were invited once again by the United Nations Environment Program to screen that film at COP16, the follow-up summit in Cancun. And all that kind of led to where we stand today, doing a series of films, basically incorporating young people, students, interviewing their local climate scientists in the respective countries around the world for all the environmental conferences the UN hosts.
So that's something that we were sort of joking about on the phone a little bit ahead of time. Was the idea that, I mean, specifically in Canada, climate scientists, independent ones anyway, ones that don't work for the government aren't much of a problem, but actually accessing Canada's climate scientists can be difficult. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges either in Canada or in other countries where this is an issue?
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult when first of all, they're in the field. Just getting a hold of them during the research is often difficult. Other times they work for the government and you have to go through endless channels in order to reach them. And even when you do, what they end up reporting on is very veiled and curtailed sometimes. But ideally, what we like to do is get in the field with the climate scientists, actually see them doing the work and have them explain it as it happens. And this bridges a great gap between the world of science and the world of international policy. Because you got to remember at that level, people making policy are just politicians. They're regular folks. They don't have a science background, most of them. And to read those big, thick scientific journals is very difficult for them to get through. And so having film as a medium to convey that data is a lot more accessible for them, and therefore more successful in the end.
Do you think, unfortunately, Liam O'Doherty, who's one of our house pundits and friend of mine and friend of the shows, was unable to join us today, but this is a topic that he and I have talked about many, many times, which is the youth voice. That's something that he specializes in with Taking It Global that he works for. He's actually in Rio, I believe, right now for the last day. Is about the youth voice itself. So in this case, what I want to ask you about that topic is, do you feel that the voice of some of this stuff coming from youth has a net positive or net negative effect on the message itself? And the reason I ask that question just before you answer is, some people may say that, if you get kids to talk about stuff, you invoke a sense of emotion and maybe people might be more receptive to it, or you might say, well, it's youth, so what do they know, and be dismissive. What's your feeling on it?
Well, yes, I can see both points there very clearly. What we like to do when we rally the youth is we treat them as reporters, and so we teach them basic journalistic skills, so that the message they end up being enthusiastic about is well researched and well represented. It's not just their opinion on something they read on Facebook. This is actually a one-on-one encounter with a climate scientist that they are merely acting as reporters for. So in that regard, their message is sound, and their enthusiasm is better than the adult representatives at these same conferences. And often they don't get an opportunity to physically be there because it's mainly for delegates and adults with that kind of ranking. But our film, once again, gives them that voice, and it gives them a responsible voice, too.
One of the things that I've appreciated about that idea of getting training kind of youth to be reporters and getting that is that, obviously it depends what age we're talking about. That's a wide range for youth, but for younger youth, for instance, we covered the thing with environmental defense where the girl's name is Penelope. Environmental Defense did that campaign, and I was actually in the environmental defense little video that went on the internet and everything.
Oh, great.
And the idea with that, I think, was that here's the cute little girl, and this is going to be her future, and that sort of thing. But I think it's very disarming. Like one of the ideas of doing that, of getting younger children or youth to do that, is that, especially when you're talking about younger children, is that there's kind of an understanding with the adults and the politicians that maybe would try to play politician doing their job in reality, but and avoid questions or change the topic or do this, is that the kids and youth don't know that you're not supposed to ask why 4 times, and reporters should also know that you're supposed to ask why 4 times, but but they don't. So when a politician kind of sidetracks or evasively answers a question, they're like, but you didn't answer my question, whereas everyone was thinking it, but only the kid would say it.
Yes, that's very
and I
true.
think that's one of the excellent examples of using not using children. That makes it sound bad, but the idea of training children to be able to have the knowledge to ask those questions is that there's some stuff that they kind of conveniently don't know about the fact that you're not supposed to press a politician. Well, yeah, go ahead, do it, challenge the authority. But most people won't, whereas a child will. So I think that's one of the excellent advantages of this. Do you have any stories just about going on and dealing with some of the children? Any fantastic individuals you met or anything?
Well, actually, I'd just like to share my experiences in Rio. That was very exciting. I was there during one of the early days last week, and what I noticed was how greatly supportive the entire conference and experience was with respect to youth. When we had our screening at the United Nations Environment Program Pavilion on June 15th, the entire pavilion was filled with things aimed at appealing to youth. There were 2 Xbox 360s there, for example. I thought that was very cool. And a lot of new technology, too. There was a beautiful boardroom table that was actually a flat-screen TV that people could have meetings with and actually watch presentations on the table they're working at. There were also 3 theaters and presentation venues built within the pavilion. And once again, I was very excited and actually puzzled to see so many young people attending this conference. And they were from all over the world, but I kept thinking, how did they get here? It's so expensive to get to Rio. But they were represented from all over the world. And when we made our presentation, I was very happy to see Akeem Steiner there. He's the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program. And to have that kind of support for our project shows that there is a real dedication and devotion, not just to the voice of youth, but to the new climate research they bring to these conferences.
Now, I think, and that's, dealing with matters when we're talking about people who are dealing in good faith, I think, it's a matter of putting a message in a format that is easily digestible for people that just don't have the background knowledge or understanding to maybe go into the deep science. Definitely, we've talked about that. So what about the side of people who might be a little bit more cynical and say that these politicians already know what the facts are and that they're simply being, influenced to make decisions that are thing, and so therefore this message for those people could be very limited. And depending on who you are, you may have think that that's a greater or smaller percentage of politicians. But how do you deal with that aspect to people who the message doesn't matter so much because they have outside influence? Is there still a potential for this project to have some sort of impact on people who maybe aren't dealing in complete honesty?
Well, no, we're not exactly poised or even focused on trying to sway the economic considerations that politicians sometimes succumb to. We're not necessarily political. What we are interested in is climate literacy, per se. So we figure that the more information that the policymakers have that is sound and clear and absolutely necessary to the world's survival, the more they have that information, the harder it is to fall to politics and do the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're trying to provide an easy access to the right decision,
absolutely,
rather than pushing the right decision. All right. Well, I think I'm happy with that. So you said you have some more projects upcoming that you're looking forward to that you'll be working on?
Yes, it's basically extension of the Youth Climate Report. So we're looking for students, if you're out there and your university would like to get involved, or college, or community college, or anything, if you have climate research being done there and you would like to showcase that, by all means, contact us. Our website is youthclimatereport.org, and all the information is there on how to conduct an interview. There's director's notes, the questions that we ask. Everything is laid out there for you, including some sample videos you can watch to get an idea of what we're looking for. So we'd like to get as many young people from around the world. I don't know how kind of reach this show has, but
we do. Well, it's Canada-wide, and we have gotten many emails from international listeners, so you may be able to grab a few. And I happen to know that there's many schools in Ontario that play this, maybe probably outside of Ontario, but I've heard from a few teachers. So I wouldn't be shocked if you get a couple emails.
Well, great. Well, this is your chance to have your voice heard by the United Nations, so please contact us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Mark Tery, thank you so much for making it in. Youth Climate Report, you can check his work out at youthclimatereport.org. Is that right?
That's right.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for speaking to us. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with some international headlines. Stay tuned.